The International English Language Testing System, IELTS, measures the language proficiency of people who want to study or work in Australia, Canada, or the UK. Want to know how to pass it? Then keep watching. Welcome to Speak English with Tiffani. I am teacher Tiffani, and today I am going to teach you how to pass IELTS Speaking Part 1. Are you ready? Well then, let's jump right in. The speaking portion of the IELTS exam is broken up into 3 parts and in total lasts for 11 to 14 minutes. The first speaking part is the introduction and interview. The second speaking part is the long turn, and the third speaking part is the discussion. But for today's lesson, we are going to look at the first speaking part, the introduction and interview. To start, in order to do well on the IELTS Speaking Part 1, you must understand 3 aspects about this part. These aspects are the topics, the purpose, and the time. First, the topics. You will be asked general questions about your home, your family, your work, your studies, and your interests. Second, the purpose. Speaking Part 1 is important because it is used to determine your ability to explain information and your opinion about everyday topics. And third, the time. This section of the exam lasts for 4 to 5 minutes. So you need to give a good amount of information in a short amount of time. Now, let's look at how you can properly answer some of the topical questions they will give you. First, let's look at some common questions about your home. The following 3 questions are questions that are very often asked during the IELTS Speaking Part 1 of the test. Number 1. What type of place is it? Number 2. What was it like growing up there? And number 3. Has it changed since you were a child? So let's use 3 pieces of information as a rule of thumb for each answer, or in other words, as a standard. Let's start with number 1. What type of place is it? Your 3 pieces of information should be location, appearance, and a unique quality. Next, number 2. What was it like growing up there? Your 3 pieces of information should be people, friends, and an experience. And finally, number 3. Has it changed since you were a child? Your 3 pieces of information should be the first change, the second change, and the third change. So, instead of memorizing an answer for each of the questions, you should simply memorize the 3 pieces of information. Now, let's look at how to use these pieces of information to actually answer the questions. The answer to number 1 becomes, my hometown is New York City. It is located on the East Coast in America. There are lots of beautiful buildings and nice parks in New York City. So you can see people walking around everywhere. New York City is known as the city that never sleeps. It is also famous for shopping and delicious street food. The answer to number 2 becomes, it was pretty fun growing up in New York City because I could see people from all over the world. Many of them were tourists looking to buy nice bags. I also had a lot of friends, and since it is a big city, it was easy for us to find things to do. I remember riding bikes together all around the city in the summertime. And the answer to number 3 becomes, yes, it has changed a lot. First, food costs a lot more than it did when I was younger. Second, There is a lot more construction going on, so you don't see kids playing in the streets as much as you did in the past. And third, even more people are moving there now. So it is really an international city. Second, let's look at some common questions about your family. The following 3 questions are also questions that are very often asked during the IELTS Speaking Part 1 of the test. Number 1, how many people are there in your family? Number 2, what things do you like doing together? And number 3, who is your favorite family member? Now, let's determine 3 pieces of information for each answer. Let's start with number 1. How many people are there in your family? Your 3 pieces of information should be number, who, and order. Next, number 2. What things do you like doing together? Your 3 pieces of information should be first thing, second thing, and third thing. And finally, number 3. Who is your favorite family member? Your 3 pieces of information should be the name, reason 1, and reason 2. So again, instead of memorizing an answer for each of the questions, you should simply memorize the 3 pieces of information. Now, let's look at how to use these pieces of information to actually answer the questions. The answer to number 1 becomes, there are 5 people in my family, including me, my father, my mother, my 2 brothers, and me. My brothers are both a lot older than me, but since I am the only girl, they treat me really well. The answer to number 2 becomes, my family is very active, so we love sports and outdoor activities. In the summer, we enjoy going on hikes together. In the winter, we enjoy going snowboarding and skiing together. And all throughout the year, we play basketball and soccer together. And the answer to number 3 becomes, I love everyone in my family, but my favorite family member is my older brother, Brian. He is an amazing brother because growing up, he always played with me and took me places with him. Now that we are adults, I love him even more because he spends lots of time talking with me about life. Okay, perfect. Now let's look at one more topic to see how to properly answer the questions. The final topic that we will look at today is work. So let's look at some common questions about your work. Number 1, what work do you do? Number 2, what do you enjoy most about your work? And number 3, what are your main duties? Now let's determine 3 pieces of information for each answer. Let's start with number 1. What work do you do? Your 3 pieces of information should be job title, company, and duty. Next, number 2. What do you enjoy most about your work? Your 3 pieces of information should be one thing, reason 1, and reason 2. And finally, number 3, what are your main duties? Your 3 pieces of information should be duty 1, duty 2, and duty 3. So, as always, remember not to memorize your answer. Instead, you should simply memorize the 3 pieces of information. Now, let's look at how to use these pieces of information to actually answer the questions. The answer to number 1 becomes, currently, I am a computer engineer. I work for a private technology firm in New York. My main job is to manage the database for our company. I also keep up with the latest technology and make sure that we are on target with the technology industry. The answer to number 2 becomes, my favorite thing about my job is actually my boss. He is an amazing person. He gives all of us the freedom to constantly improve our skills by paying for any self-development class we are interested in. Also, he takes the time to speak with each of us individually every day. And the answer to number 3 becomes, my main duty is to manage the company database, but I also am in charge of making sure our software infrastructure is up to date. So, in order to do this properly, I must also attend and write reports on tech conferences that happen across America. And that's how you pass the IELTS Speaking Part 1. Click the link to download the free worksheet that goes along with this lesson. Remember to subscribe.